Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live health chat. Today, we're going to talk about relationships, and we're all a part of the Shakti Wellness Agency. My name is Sherelle D. Kennedy. I am a licensed clinician with Shakti Wellness, but I'm also the owner of Doc Ships LLC, a relationship coaching company.
Hi, I'm Asha Sims. I am owner of Ashakti Wellness and Yoga PLLC, licensed clinician, life coach, sensual arts educator, as well as an energy practitioner.
And I am Spencer Scorsoni. I am an intern at Ashakti Wellness, and I'm also a Reiki master practitioner.
All right. And today we're just going to open up just talking about relationships. I know that that is like a passion of mine. So with Spencer and Asha, I'm going to throw out a controversial thing when we talk about relationships.
I love controversy.
I know. So the question is love enough when it comes to relationships?
I think the question is, what is a relationship without love?
I got you. So you want to do the flip reverse psychology? I got you. I got you, Spencer.
That's my answer. What is it for me? Being a love bug, I feel that there is not a relationship without love. Now, the different types of love, that's a whole nother discussion and workshop, from unconditional love, agape love. But I do feel that the core of any relationship, you have to have love, but most important, self-love.
Okay.
Within that.
Okay. Spencer, you have thoughts? I know you went to one of our workshops before, so don't give my answer, Spencer.
I won't give your secret recipe away. But yeah, I agree with Asha. I think self-love is such an important piece of relationship. And if you don't have that, then things will easily fall apart. I think that when you talk about is love enough, I think that it depends on how you define love, because a lot of people in our society will define love differently. A lot of people think that attachment is love, or possession is love, or something along those lines. And those are more akin to kind of trauma responses within relationship than true, real love, which is not unconditional, but doesn't necessarily place as many conditions as sometimes the trauma and or fear-based love might.
I gotcha. So my canned answer, according to Doc Ships, like what we talk about all the time, love is not enough. It's not enough. It's actually the bare minimum. Now, here's my argument. I know what y'all saying. Here's my argument. It's because spiritually speaking, we are considered love, right? So we're considered love and we're in an environment with another person, it's already there. But I feel like so much of the focus of relationship is, am I falling for this person? Am I in love with this person? And really, I feel like the whole big thing, you miss out on the other elements that are really needed for healthy relationship. You need honesty, you need trust, you need cooperation, you need respect. And I think like a lot of the conversation is, do I love this person? Do you love me? You don't love me enough. You're not changing. And I just feel like you really just miss the point of relationship, because we believe that relationship is really a growing ground. It's a growing ground for that individual to identify themselves, their needs. So we don't necessarily think that it's your partner that's supposed to help you really heal in certain ways. It's just the relationship itself is the soil. It is the fertility which you need to figure out those things about yourself, because in the relationship, honestly, like a mirror is held to you. Like, you know what I'm saying? But the problem is most people think like in a relationship it's the partner, and you're like, no, it's you. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things, Spencer, because I know you see a lot of couples dealing with trauma in relationship and they think it is that partner.
Yes. So it is so hard for us as people to really recognize when we're getting confronted with something that is within us, especially if it's something that we don't like and we don't want to see that. It's very, very simple to cognitive dissonance your way out of accepting and like really stopping to notice, why are you having such a strong reaction to what that person is doing? taking accountability for, I'm having this reaction to this person's actions. That's still on me, right? Like, so whatever that person is doing, whether they hurt us or whether we think that their love should look different for us, we still have a role in that dynamic. And a lot of people don't want to take the responsibility because that means that they have to do work too. It's a lot easier to get into relationships feeling like, if I can just change this person into exactly how I want them to be and how I want them to act, then everything would be perfect. But that's not the case. And if you can't confront your own shadows, then you're never going to be happy with a person, with yourself, in any situation, and all that. So you got to face those shadows.
Yeah, I love it. Asha, did you want to chime in? Because I know you do a lot of shadow work.
I think what she said, that whole shadow work, I have found now we've seen a shift within relationships. There's a lot of couples that's been together for years and all of a sudden are having these epiphanies of wanting to go in different directions. And many on the other end of it is feeling disappointed, like what happened. But it's all about growth, and love is about growth. Now, the thing is, how do you find that healthy balance when one is growing? And it's not to say one is not growing with it, because that's putting a label, and that's judgment, because everybody grows differently. But with growth comes discomfort. And then often with discomfort comes avoidance. And within that aspect, people are afraid to talk about the change because they feel they're going to lose someone. But at the end of the day, and I think even from what you see in therapy and what your business promotes, Sherelle, you're right. Each one is a relationship, it's a destination. Your relationship is a destination, whether it's to your higher self, to expand yourself, to becoming a better mother, better business owner. So I think we have to be willing to look at the shadows in order to grow. And then that is where you're going to see the true dedication or the type of love on what's unconditional. And so at the end of the day, in those shifts or changes, you may lose. I'm not even going to say lose, you may shift dynamics. So at the end of the day, you have to look at what have you gained within yourself as an individual, and not putting the pressure on the person you're in the relationship with. They're just there to help you see you. Bottom line, it's a mirror.
Yeah.
So if you don't like that person, then you got to look at what you don't like within yourself and work on that.
Yeah, I like that. So, I'm really different. I'm really radical in my thinking because you talked about unconditional love. This is what I feel like. I feel like in relationship is a lot of conditions on love. Like I don't feel like you really see unconditional love. I feel like that's what we're learning when we're in relationships, to not have these conditions, be understand to be understanding and know how to flow in any type of condition. I think that, and Spencer and I talked about this before, a lot of times when we talk about unconditional love, I think in relationships, we're thinking, okay, I'm supposed to accept any type of behavior.
Right.
I don't want to, I don't want to judge you. I don't want to change you. No, like sometimes some changes need to happen. We may change at different rates, but who you are as a person cannot abuse, overtake, or overpower me. Like something needs to happen. And so I believe that there are conditions on love. I just can't take you any kind of way. I think I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I was like, yeah, just who I am. I can't take lying. Not to say that lying is appealing to anyone, but for some reason that's like the nail in the coffin for me. Like if you lie, like I'm done. Like that's my condition. I can't, because what can I do with an untruth? It leaves me confused. It leaves me wondering what's what. It turns me around. I don't understand what reality is. And so one of my conditions to relationship is like, let's just be honest.
Right.
I
And I
can't.
think that, like you said, that whole, when we talk about, and you do a lot of work with couples, when we talk about infidelity. And I always tell a couple when I work with that are experiencing infidelity, this could be a turnaround for your relationship, because it's a sign of something not being met or communication, that infidelity can really strengthen a relationship if you get to the core of what is causing the infidelity, instead of running and just being hurt by the infidelity. And I'm seeing that whole thing with communication, because I've worked with couples and been together for 20 years and I ask certain questions, they're like, oh, I didn't know that about you. So not having that communication leads to lack of communication and disharmony, which affects the whole dynamics of a relationship. And we haven't even gotten to the part of talking about sex yet, my favorite part,
I
but
know. I'm gonna definitely
that
kick it to you.
communication.
I'm gonna definitely kick it to you. I think you made me even lose my point because whenever you talk about sex, it'd be
I
so
know,
funny to
I
me. I'd be
know,
like,
I
let her
know.
have it because she's gonna talk about it. Um, but I feel like one of the things you said, like when we talk about infidelity, like here's the thing. I think that we're always thinking like the issue at hand is the issue. And that is
Hmm.
never the issue. Like
It
it's
starts before the infidelity even took place.
right, but that's with any problem in the relationship, though. Like, that's
Hmm.
why I believe that the problems in the relationship really exist within the individual. That comes from their family line, that comes from what they know, what their thoughts are, what their beliefs are. But our biggest thing in working with clients and working with couples is let's get educated. Like, figure out where is this person coming from. But a lot of times, just like in the workshop we did on Friday, on last Friday, we're connecting with people in which the ways in which we relate to them. Like when I meet you, I'm thinking about what I like about you and I'm thinking about how we're similar. But I don't think the similarities should get you. I think the differences should because that's what makes the biggest issue in the long run. How you
Hmm.
handle the differences. But I don't feel like we're having those conversations up front. It's like you like dogs, I like dogs. Oh my gosh, we're great together. you know,
Yeah, yeah.
but we need to figure out how to figure out those differences. But I also know also you talked about communication and I love it when you get into like the whole aspect of sex
Hmm.
and how we relate to one another. I know you blew my mind when you were telling me your philosophies about like manifestation when it comes to sex.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
can you share
Sure.
that
And
with us?
since we're talking about relationship, because this is where I always, in working with couples and individuals that have partners, because now at some point in time, for many, as we mature, our focus of relationships takes a different role. Early on, it might have just been for socialists. For some, at one point in time, it was just sexual. But as many of us continue on these paths and we're learning the different journeys of the ships that we are aboard, um, we seeking more. So when it comes to that growth of self and growth within relationships, at the core of it, a lot of our sexual uh, personalities come into play within the relationship, meaning we have to learn the power of the sexual energy.
Mm-hmm.
As we talk, being an energy practitioner, energy beings, we got how we even became these magnificent miracle beings was through sex, through an orgasm.
Yes.
So the power that comes through this activity was one that comes from source. Now, how much do we give honor to the power of it, or do we abuse it as a recreation or something to do?
Mm-hmm.
Then, how whatever your thoughts are become your actions. So, your external role is an extension of the internal. So, even in that intimacy and sexual, it is still an energetic course of action that takes place that produces an outcome. So, within that, the power, if you are created based upon an orgasm, coming together with a partner on that same energetic belief system, during the aspect of sexual intercourse and orgasm, magnificent things can happen at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's becoming, as we talk about mindfulness, people understand mindfulness being present.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point of engaging in that activity with someone, being mindful of what your intentions are very key because that portal is open. So even to those who are having issues within relationships and communication, if you set your intentions going into this intimate experience, then you can take that healing energy that comes from an orgasm to heal the relationship
Mm-hmm.
all through a orgasm.
I
So if
know.
we're not having the orgasms in a relationship with someone you're in a relationship with, that's even a deeper level to go back where the communication, because that's another form of actions or behaviors that came from an underlining root.
Yes.
So it still ties into it. And so whether you're single or married, when I go and do coaching or therapy with clients, particularly women, one of my questions, a part of my assessments are Are you having an orgasm? Because that's going to let me know what you're manifesting, how your money looking.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
that's good. It brings what you're saying, like, brings more weight to like the Marvin Gaye song, like sexual healing. Like, I always think about that when you talk about it. And I like
yeah.
how you're always asking, like, who's having an orgasm in here? And you're like, what?
Mm-hmm.
What is this lady talking about?
Yeah.
I like that. So we can flip it back to the other side. I know, Spencer, you deal a lot with trauma, codependency, so many of those sexy words that we tend to come up with when we talk about relationships. So do you want to share with us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the thing that really got me interested in relationships in the first place and kind of like looking through a different lens, I guess, than what a lot of it was common in society was learning about attachment styles.
Mm.
For me, that really was a lens that made a lot of sense to me. So I really do look through that lens now when I work with couples. And another thing that really like forms the basis of how I work with couples is John Gottman. One of his things is that, and this is also something that I hear among spiritual people all the time, kind of, is that one person needs to change for the whole relationship to change. It actually, so just you changing your part, it's like a chemical reaction. Think of it as simple chemistry. If you change from water to vinegar and then you put baking soda, something's going to happen. The baking soda is still the same stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. So you need to understand your power within relationship. I think that sometimes when people go into a relationship and start to realize that they might have codependent tendencies, that they might have some of the more avoidant attachment style tendencies, um, there are a couple different reactions, but one of them can be, oh, I'm not good enough for this relationship. I'm not ready for a relationship. I can't heal myself while in a relationship. And that is absolutely not the case. You absolutely can. It's just that both partners need to be aware, both partners need to be present, and both partners need to be on the same page with that. So you need to be communicative. You need to share with your partner where you are. They can be supportive in that. And that's where a lot of the time conflict comes up because maybe the partner is not supportive to their growth. And maybe that truth is really hard to face.
Mm.
So it starts to become this dance where it's like, well, how can I change you? As opposed to that acceptance of maybe you're not what's best for my growth. Maybe this relationship isn't what's best for my growth. And so, yeah, those are just kind of some of the themes that I see and work with a lot in relationship. But I think that the concept that you can heal within relationship and that relationship is a great and supportive way to heal if the circumstances are right.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we don't talk about enough.
Yeah. I think you made some great points, and I know you threw in John Gottman, and I definitely agree with a lot of his philosophies. And I know that you and I even talked about it before, because he's been able to predict with what, like a 99.9% accuracy about which couples will stay together. So a lot of what he does is he uses objective research. So he's looking at body signals. He is even testing the saliva of couples to see the cortisol and the stress levels. And so he's been able to do that in research. And so I've really taken a lot of his research, but then I started to look at it relative to African American couples. And so some of the things that he says about research in general are really profound. But when I start to pull back the layers and look at like minorities, specifically African Americans, I started to think, dag, like we're really coming to the table late with some of this understanding. So one of his philosophies is that there are the four horsemen of the apocalypse that show what a relationship, basically how a relationship will end if these things are present. So you'll have to help me out, Spencer, because for some reason, even though it's four, I always forget one. So it's criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. I remembered. I'm so proud. But what I was realizing is a lot of those things we see in Black families, period. So, like in your relationship as an African American, you can have criticism, you can have defensiveness, you can show contempt, and you can give your partner the silent treatment, but it doesn't make you think the relationship is bad. It doesn't. That's what you do at home. That's what you do with your mom. That's what you saw your daddy do to your mom. So you're not thinking, oh, this is a horrible relationship. And so one of the things that I tend to tell our couples that we work with is, let's pay attention to how your body even feels. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like with your partner, like, is your hair standing up on your arm when they're talking to you? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I literally take my pulse when I have arguments in relationship. I do. I really do, because I'm like, if someone is making me feel a certain type of way, then I need to remove myself from the situation and pull it down, because that's it's going to form a trauma response in my body, and I don't want that negative connotation. So that's another thing where it's like, you have to pay attention to those things, and you have to be respectful of your partner paying attention to those things too.
Yeah. But it's kind of funny because we had this conversation about this, right? So like in Black couples, if you walk off, if you say, I can't take this, my pulse is too high, then you quitting. You quitting. We need to keep arguing. We need to argue this joint out. Like that's not the first impulse that you get. Oh my gosh, let's take a break and then let's come back.
And I think that's so key, Sherelle. I think thinking about, we even have to look at, even in our roles of clinicians and the clients that we see, and looking at the cultural responses or roles in relationship, which shows up different in different cultures. But where does that upbringing, those imprints come from a cultural aspect, and then from the micro aspect of your individual family unit, which defines relationships. And I think we often subconsciously reproduce sometimes what we didn't like by our actions and the imprints of our cultural, viewpoint. So that whole reprogramming of relationships is what is going on now. That's what part of this talk is, to help us redefine what is love, what is unconditional love, and how does it show up, reprogramming sex, intimacy. And we talked about an orgasm, but really the orgasm is just one aspect of intimacy that most couples can't even communicate in the form of intimacy to, even get to that point of the sexual pleasure. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I know we can keep just talking about this all day because this is one of like my favorite subjects. So I'll take the opportunity to kind of bring this to a close to address something that you said, Asha. And that was basically, let's be intentional. Let's be intentional about this. So with doc ships, we always say, let's get educated. Like love just isn't enough. Doing your best isn't enough. You know what I'm saying? Like one partner's best could be 1 and the other one can be a 10. Like, so we need to know what this stuff is. We need to understand what we're doing. And we just really need to open our mind for that reprogramming, like you said. And so this has been really good. And I'm sure we're going to have so many more talks, so many more chats.
I would just like to add, as we go through this, to remember the words of the old wise sage. And I'm not sure who the old wise sage was, but orgasm a day can keep a couple together. Namaste.
So one of the things that we've been doing at Ashakti Wellness is we've been trying to make it possible to market all of our events and our activities. So following this chat, you'll see just ads of every event that we're having. We're really working really hard to just bring programming out, holistic programming.